All right. And I'm going to share my screen with you. All right. So if you're here, you know that this is all about the 52 hike challenge. I'm going to talk tonight about dealing with chronic illness and hiking. So there's a couple people that are jumping in, so we'll let them go ahead and jump in. But just a little bit about what we're going to talk about tonight. I'll tell you my story, how I got involved in 52 hikes. We'll talk about the benefits of nature for everybody. We're going to talk about the essentials because they're a little bit different. If you're somebody that has to deal with chronic illness, we're going to talk about what to do if you're on a trail and you're suddenly dealing with issues. And then we're also going to talk about forest bathing, and then we'll any questions anybody has. So if you have any questions while I'm talking, just go ahead and type them in the chat thing. I'll get to them probably at the end though. All right. And so a little bit about me. My name's Tiffany. I live outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I'm a teacher and a mom and a wife as well. So, I'm busy with those things, but also somebody that deals with chronic migraines. If you know anything at all about migraines, they are a whole lot more than just headaches. And so I deal with not just headaches, but issues with light and constant nausea and dizziness and double vision and all kinds of fun things, which then lead to, unfortunately, mental health struggles that I've had in terms of depression and anxiety. When it comes to chronic migraines and depression and anxiety, it's one of those what came first, chicken or the egg things. So it's pretty typical for somebody with my issues to also have those. But through my whole life, I've always been a nature lover. My family spent lots of time outside, and our vacations were things like camping in the woods or camping on the beach. So I was always outside, and I was a Girl Scout and loved to spend time as a kid at Girl Scout camp. So that's just a little bit about me. And so my story with 52 hikes. At the end of 2016, I was not in a good place at all. I was extremely unhealthy. I was struggling to be able to go to work every day. And my life consisted pretty much of getting through my work week and then using every free minute I had to recover from that. And I was just in a vicious cycle, and it would not end. And so, despite everything I tried, nothing was working. And finally, in all places, I was at my therapist and I was talking about this, and she was like, "What do you do for you?" And, anybody else out there that's a mom knows that you don't do a whole lot for you. And I would name things that seemed like they were for me, but they really weren't for me. And she kept saying, "But what are you doing to take care of you?" And so this went on for a little while, and she kept saying, like, next time you're here, you need to have something that you're going to do for you at least one day a week. And in the midst of that, my sister shared on social media that she had found this new challenge, the 52 hike challenge, and she was going to do 52 hikes in a year. And I thought, that's it. That's what I'm going to do for me. And I can tell you that everybody around me thought I was absolutely insane, that there was no way I was going to be able to do this, that it was too much, that I was trying to jump into things way too quickly. But I had some supportive people in my life as well. My husband was like, "If you want to do it, let's do it." And I had a friend that said, "I will do it with you. And if you can't get to the trail, I'll get you to the trail." And so we decided that 2017, we were going to do 52 hikes, and 52 hikes I did. It wasn't easy in any way, shape, or form. But I learned a lot. and I learned a lot about how to live with chronic illness. And it certainly wasn't what I had been doing before. I can tell you that I hike way more times than 52 times in a year, that I spend tons of time outside, and that despite the fact that chronic migraine and depression and anxiety are still a big part of who I am, they don't define me anymore. And in the past, they defined me. And so for me, that's what 52 Hike Challenge did for me. And I have been a part of this community ever since. In 2018, I started leading the Pennsylvania chapter. And I'll talk a little bit more about our chapters because that's what I'm super passionate about. But through that, I have met so many people, and I can pretty much call up anybody. I could be going anywhere in this state, and I know somebody that I can meet up and hike with. And for me, that's what 52 Hikes is all about. It's not just about proving that you can do more than you thought, but it's about meeting a community of people that are going to support you every step of the way. And so that's where my story is. And now, as I said, wow, I guess it's been since 2022, I have worked for 52 Hike Challenge. It's in a small part-time capacity, but I manage all of our leaders. And so when I say that I'm passionate about 52 and that it changed my life, I really mean that. So in terms of, why hike, even if you are sick, I hope you know that there are so many benefits of hiking. Just some of them are, how much that will boost your mood. I can tell you that one of the things that I have learned is it doesn't matter how long the hike is or how exciting the hike is, which was hard for me to convince myself in the beginning, but just getting outside, getting into nature will make everything a little bit easier to handle. Research has also shown that, being outside really impacts our brain in a lot of positive ways. It improves attention span, it improves our problem solving. And if you're dealing with chronic illness, problem solving tends to be something you have to deal with a lot. And then, of course, as we all know, hiking is good for our cardiovascular health. But for me, what I really needed to learn about hiking and having a chronic illness was about rest. And something that I learned was that resting the body isn't at all the same as resting your brain. And prior to 52 Hikes, I thought, well, if I just lay on my couch all weekend and don't do anything, I'll feel better. And yet I didn't. And everybody kept saying, but you're not, but I wasn't resting because my brain wasn't quitting. And so that idea of resting your brain is just as important as resting your body. And there's research that shows that to actually rest your brain, it requires some kind of physical movement or concentrated movements. So things like, even if it's just things like deep breathing, it's physical movement that you're concentrating on. But walking, just taking a walk, rests your brain. And you can get a whole lot more done with that kind of rest. So something to think about. Before you get started, some things to really think about if you're dealing with any kind of chronic illness or issue, really before you start any new exercise, is talk to your doctor. I can tell you, though, that I have bunches of doctors, and some said, yay, go for it. And some said, maybe not. So, make sure that you're talking to doctors that you trust and are going to give you information that is good for you. Easiest way to get started is just to start walking. Even if it's just around the local neighborhood, walking is step one. Things that I always struggled with, and I still do, I'll be honest, is don't be afraid to be slow. It's often hard if you're in a group of people who some have much better physical fitness than you, are moving a lot faster. However, I've learned that when you slow down, you tend to see things that you didn't see before. And every step matters. It doesn't matter if you're walking that 5 miles in 2 hours or in 5 hours, you still walk the 5 miles. Some other good things are always, practice in your hiking boots, practice with your shoes, practice with a pack if you get a new pack. And in terms of exercise, if you can work on things that strengthen your muscles, build endurance, your balance is super important, and cardio. And then, of course, you should just start out small and increase mileage. When I first started, clear back in 2017, I mean, the most we were hiking was maybe 2 or 3 miles. By the end of that year, we were up to about 10 miles a day. And the thing about it is, the more you go, the farther you're going to go and the easier it gets. Yet some days, a mile is all that I'm going to get. And that's okay too. If you don't know the 10 essentials, they're super important. They're the things you should have with you on every single hike. Whether you're dealing with chronic illness or not, make sure that you have some kind of navigation. Maps are super important. A lot of times people rely too much on all trails and those things, but they fail sometimes or the maps aren't right. So it's always good to have a true paper map or a map on your phone that's downloaded, and a compass. Sun protection, insulation, having some kind of light, first aid supplies, which are sometimes different for those of us that have medical issues. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. Make sure you have something to start a fire, a repair kit and tools. Food and water should be on every hike. And then if an emergency shelter, just in case. And then this is what I call the 10 essentials plus, because these are the things that I have to make sure that I have with me when I'm out. And so if you're somebody that has some sort of chronic illness, it's really important that you add these things to your, essentials that you bring with you all the time. For me, one of those is medication. I can get a migraine in a second. And if I don't take my medication as quickly as possible, there is zero chance that I'm going to not end up extremely ill. And so something that I do that I've learned over the years is I keep medication in several different little spots in my bag, just because sometimes when I'm getting into that, I'm getting a really bad migraine mode. It makes me super anxious and I have trouble focusing on where things are. And so I make sure that I have those pills in every little pocket, because for me, that's an easy way to make sure I have them. And so I would recommend whatever that is for you, make sure that you know where your medicine is and at all times and can grab it. Cooling towels for me are super important. One of the things that I struggle with my migraines is regulating body temperature. And so it doesn't matter what temperature it is. If I'm going up and I'm breathing heavy, my body gets very, very hot, very, very fast. And so I always carry with me the cooling towels that you can just get wet and put on your head or put on your neck that'll bring your body temperature down quickly. And those help me from getting to a place where I'm overheated. They're also fantastic if you are somebody that's not crazy about hiking when it's hot. A cooling towel is a really good way to cool your body down. You just dump it in a stream or sprinkle a little bit of water out of your bottle, if you can spare it, onto your towel, and it gets very cool very quickly. I also recommend, if you're somebody that's dealing with some kind of illness where heat can be an issue or where things can get swollen or sore, to carry a disposable ice pack. If you've never seen those before, they're very small and you literally just crush it and it gets cold for a short period of time, but it's super helpful. I've used that before for a migraine. because ice helps the head. And so I've put one of those on my head in an emergency. So those are things to think about. Any kind of device that you need or have, for instance, anyone that has asthma, you need to make sure that even if you're not always using your inhaler, that you have that inhaler with you when you're out on the trail and that you know where it is. Emergency information is super important. One of the things that unfortunately has started to happen with my migraines is I am starting to have issues with finding words. And so I worry that in an emergency that will happen and I won't be able to give people all of the information that they need. And so I make sure that on a piece of paper, I have all of my contact information and that's in my bag. And then if you have allergies of any kind, it's super important that you wear something or carry something with you that says you have those allergies. I have a couple medication allergies, and so I have a allergy bracelet that I wear. These are the things that help me a lot with migraines. Of course, if your issue is something different, you really have to kind of focus in what's going to make it safe and enjoyable for you on the trail as well. Leave no trace principles are just as important, even if we are dealing with illness. And that number one thing about planning and preparing, which is the number one leave no trace principle, is the thing that when you're dealing with some kind of chronic issue that you always want to think about. Know where you're going, know how far it's going to be, know all of the details, and prepare as much as you can. Obviously, we cannot plan for everything. Mistakes happen, illnesses happen, but at least having a plan makes life a whole lot easier. The rest of leave no trace. You make sure you travel and camp on durable surfaces, waste to be disposed of properly, always leave what you find, minimize campfires, respect the wildlife, and be considerate to others. Handling illness on the trail. This is some of that planning and preparation stuff that I really want to talk about, that leave no trace step one. Some special considerations to think about if you're somebody dealing with some kind of health issue. Trail difficulty and trail reviews. Something that I learned the hard way early on is that what one person's easy trail is not somebody else's easy trail. That was a hard lesson to learn in the beginning. I now know that. And so don't always go by what the parks say, because here in Pennsylvania, our parks use this easy, moderate, advanced system, but one moderate and another park's moderate are not even close to the same. So my go-to is always to read some reviews if you can find them. So if you use an app like All Trails, or sometimes even if you just Google a trail, you can read some people's honest, real reviews about what it was like. That definitely helps me prepare. On the day of the hike, I always stop and look at what my situation is and where I'm at health-wise, and whether or not it's a good plan for today. Because unfortunately, I might have a great plan that I have set for Saturday, but when Saturday comes, my ability to drive somewhere and then hike there and then drive home may no longer exist. And I have learned that I have to make sure day of that I stop and I think about everything that's about to happen and whether or not I really physically can do it safely. Footwear matters a whole lot. If you don't yet have good, comfortable shoes that you hike in, I highly recommend finding some that work for you. I would say footwear isn't just important for pain issues, but also for safety on the trail. As I said, so I have issues sometimes with getting dizzy. And so I've been known to stumble on the trail quite a lot. There was a section hike I did with a group of friends where I was named Tumbling Tiffany because I kept tumbling down the hills. However, as funny as that is, having good footwear for that matters, because when I'm having trouble walking as it is, if I didn't have good grip on my shoes, that would make my situation a whole lot worse. And so footwear, of all things you do for hiking, footwear matters the most. Weather forecast matters a lot for me in terms of chronic illness. I will hike in any weather. I have learned that if I wait for the day when it's sunny and beautiful and I feel good, that and I'm never getting on the trail. Another hard lesson. But for me, things like huge fluctuations in the weather, if it goes from being, 20 degrees first thing in the morning to 70 in the afternoon, will cause an instant migraine for me. So I have to pay attention to things like that. Those weather fluctuations, they matter for me. Another issue I have is with humidity. And so it can be 60 degrees and no humidity, and I'll be hiking just fine. It could be 60 degrees and 100% humidity, and my body thinks it's 100 degrees. That's just part of what I deal with my illness, but that matters. So something to take into consideration. The pack. The pack is, that is my Achilles heel, I'll be honest. Since I started hiking, I cannot tell you the number of different hiking packs and bags and walking packs and bags that I have tried. I've worked with a couple different chiropractors to try and help me with that. It matters how your bag sits and how you're distributing the weight matters. For me, I have a lot of issues with my neck and my shoulders, and that immediately also gives me migraine issues. And so wearing a pack for a long period of time is often an issue for me. And so it's something that I have to think about when I'm planning what kind of trail I'm doing and how long I'm hiking, is how much stuff I can actually carry. And by that, I don't mean I'm leaving a bunch of stuff at home so I can go further. I mean, I'm limiting how far I'm going because I can't carry everything that I need. And it's important. It's something to think about. Honestly, the more I hike as the season goes on, I'll start backpacking a little bit, and it'll get a little better for me. But I have yet to find a bag that doesn't cause me issues. But good luck to you. If you don't know, if you have a local REI, you can take your gear and they will help you pack different bags that they have, and you can walk around the store in them, and feel them, which has helped me to find a better bag. In terms of other things to have, whatever your pain management options are, if pain is your issue, you need to make sure that you have that with you and know what that's going to do. Because if you have some kind of pain management that doesn't allow you to continue to walk or drive, that's not the right pain management for this trip, or this isn't the right trip. The distance of the drive matters. One of the things that has changed in my life with migraines over the last 8 years is that I used to not be able to drive at all. But I now, because of a medication change, don't have near as much issue driving. And because it's something I couldn't do for a long time, it's something I love to do. And I will plan a hike 3.5 hours away and get up at 5 in the morning to get there in time, which is great. And the hike might be great. But then there's always the issue that you have to get home. And so, always think about that too. I won't lie, more than once I've thought, what was I thinking? I've since changed my style and camp a lot more. And so if I can't get home, I always have my camping stuff with me and find somewhere to sleep. But that drive, it matters after you've hiked all day. And then, of course, support gear. Trekking poles, I'm a huge advocate for trekking poles for everybody, just because it gives you 4 points on the ground instead of 2. If you don't use them, I say give them a try at least and see how much easier it is and safer you feel. But any kind of bandages or special sleeves or insoles or any of that kind of support gear that you would need at home. You need to make sure that you have that with you. And then hiking companions. And I can tell you that is the biggest key for me when it comes to handling illness as a hiker, is that I have found a group of supportive women that understand that I might have plans with them for Saturday, and I might text them Saturday morning and say, hey, I'm not making it to the trailhead. And they're okay with that. And it matters. Or they also know that I get sick, and I've been honest about that. And so we might be halfway down our planned trail when I realize I'm not going to make it. And it's important to have hiking companions that aren't going to say, oh yeah, you'll be fine, if you're not going to be fine and not going to be safe. So those are all things that you need to consider and plan and prepare for before getting out on the trail. So this was the thing, and I won't lie, this was what kept me from hiking by myself for more than a year after I started the challenge. I now happily hike solo all the time, and it's one of my favorite things. But I won't lie, my anxiety had me thinking, I'm out here, I'm having an issue, my migraines are happening or whatever issue, and it's flaring up, and I'm here, and now what? And I can tell you the thing that I learned was having a plan that this is what I will do if that happens has helped me so much, because I'm able to stop and take a deep breath and say, it's okay, I know what I have to do. And for me, that plan is often just to stop, take my migraine medication, rest for a little bit, take some kind of hydration because I need extra hydration, and then wait and see what happens. And usually I've always been lucky enough to be able to eventually get out. What I don't do anymore, and what I learned not to do, is to say, oh, I'm getting a migraine, I should walk out of here as fast as I possibly can. That is the worst thing I can do, and I've learned that. So staying calm and having a plan and knowing what it is important. Being flexible. I can't say enough how important it is to be flexible, and it's not always easy when you're dealing with some kind of illness or issue, because it feels like often you're having to change what you want to do. And so it's a hard lesson to learn, but sometimes you might drive to the trailhead and you might walk most of the trail and you might not get to see the thing you wanted to see, but it's okay because you got outside. And I've learned that I just need to be flexible. Or I might have big plans for Saturday and might not be able to get where I need to go, but I can still find a way to get outside. If you're out and you're having an issue, what do? Stop and reset yourself and remain calm. And if you need help, get help. One of the things I left off, that was silly, of my list of extra things to carry with you, your extra essentials, is some way to contact help if you need it. There's a couple different options for that. Some people only ever hike where there's cell phone service, and if that's you, that's great. I do not only hike where there's cell phone service, and so a few winters ago, my husband bought me a little Garmin inReach, and what that allows me to do is, in case of an emergency, it has an SOS button, and I can get help. So that gives me the assurance that if the worst thing happens, somebody can find me. And it also made my husband feel a lot more comfortable with saying, okay, go out in the woods by yourself. So that's my recommendation, is if you're going out and you make sure that you have a way to contact somebody. And always tell somebody where you're going to be. But number one, get out there. These are some of those ladies that I've met through 52 and that I spend a great deal of time with now. And they would tell you the same thing. No matter what, the number one thing that you can do is get outside. I did not get out this past weekend. I wasn't feeling well and it was really bothering me. And so it was a beautiful day today. And I managed to squeeze in a mile and a half after work. And I can tell you, I feel so much better already just for getting outside for that little bit. So just get out there. The question that often comes up is, what is a hike for the 52 hike challenge? For us, for our official definition, it's anything over a mile and outside. And so if you're like me and sometimes can't get in the car and get to the best trails, your neighborhood is a great place to be outside and get a walk. I have a couple local parks that I can walk around, but just anything over a mile. A lot of people, once they've been doing the challenge for a while, up that mileage or add some extra criteria. But in terms of 52 hikes, just over a mile and outside. And anybody that needs adaptive hiking, we look at spending 30 to 45 minutes in nature as a hike, if that's the most that you can do that week. Sitting in nature and doing anything is better than sitting inside. And so that takes me to forest bathing. And forest bathing is a great way to get outside, even when physically walking isn't feeling like it's going to happen. And so forest bathing emerged in Japan in the 1980s. It's called Shinryoku. And the idea was to get people back into the forest, to get them to reconnect with nature. And so I have a video I'm going to share with you. All right. And so for me, I can tell you, I've taken a couple very brief classes about forest bathing. And now I'm going to tell you, for me, what was the most simple for me was when somebody said, literally, just go outside, find a spot where you can sit or stand comfortably, and then focus on each of the senses one at a time. So you literally just close your eyes and focus on everything that you hear until you can't focus on that any longer. And then focus on everything that you can smell and just what you smell. And then just everything that you can feel, the ground under your feet. If you're sitting on a tree, what the bark feels like. Finally, to where you open your eyes and see everything that you can see. And for me, what I've learned that does is really, really ground me and give me the ability to refocus. It's a super simple thing, but when I don't feel well, if I can get somebody to give me a ride to sit somewhere in nature to do that for 15 to 20 minutes, it's a game changer in my mood. So just a fun way to get outside, even when hiking isn't working. Uh-oh. There we go. Finally, I just wanted to tell you a little bit. If you have not explored the 52 Hike Challenge website yet, under our resources and tools, there are tons of things that can help you get started or to continue on your 52 hikes. So there's a guide to the challenge and a bunch of frequently asked questions, but you can even find things like education. So if there's a certain topic that you're not sure about, check and see if we have a blog about it. You can find hike tracking, how to find trails, recommendations, all that good stuff. My favorite though right here is find your local group. If you haven't done that yet, from our webpage, you can find lots of local hiking groups and all of our chapters across the country. Not every state has one yet, but we're working on it. But if your state has a chapter, I highly encourage you to join because it's a great way to meet people that are local to you that you can get out with. Because I can tell you, my husband will hike with me. You know, my daughter will sometimes hike with me. But having this network of friends that loves to hike as much as I do has completely been a game changer for me. And so check out our groups. Many of our groups host regular hikes. So if that's something you're looking for, you can find that there. Success. People often ask how on earth I did this the first time and then kept doing it. I can tell you it was simply I just set the goal. The one thing that I did for myself was I put it out there in the social media world and was like, I'm going to do this. And I knew that once I did that, if I didn't, when the year came through and I had to see that memory again, I wouldn't like it very much. So for me, that was enough of a motivator. Like I said, I had a friend working with me too, and so it helped. Gear matters. If you're just getting started, that's okay to start in what you have. I can tell you that clear back in 2017, when I first started, my friend and I were going out in old jeans and tennis shoes. So gear, I can tell you over the years, changing up and learning about the right gear has made hiking a whole lot safer and more comfortable. But just get out there. Surround yourself with support and guidance and make some friends. If someone would have told me back in 2017 when I first started this thing that I would have met women from all over the country and that I would just randomly jump on and chat with them and hike with them, I wouldn't have believed it. But it's happened. Their support, their guidance, their encouragement has meant everything. And I can tell you, there are some really, really inspiring folks out there if you just try and go out and meet them. And I'm constantly inspired by those people around me, and they just keep me going. Use our hashtags. If you're on social media at all, a good way to keep track of your hikes and to keep yourself accountable is to use our 52 Hike Challenge hashtags. They actually do pull from those for the things that they're going to feature on our social media accounts. So go ahead and post there. Don't be afraid to fail and to push your limits, whatever those limits are. I can tell you some of the things that I have done, I never, ever, ever thought I would be able to do. I have hiked as far as 17 miles. I've done 4-day, 3-night of, backpacking trips. I've done an ice hike. So you just never know. It's just about figuring out what you can and what you can't do. And I can tell you, I won't ever hike 17 miles again. That was a little bit past my limits. And I probably won't backpack for 4 days again. I've learned that I like to slack pack a whole lot more. If you don't know slack packing, it's basically doing the long distance trail without carrying your stuff. And so either you shuttle it or somebody shuttles it for you. I like sleeping outside and I like hiking, but carrying my gear and my body, they don't like that. So I don't do it as often, but I've tried. And so I think that's the important thing is that try, because until you try it, you don't know. And then celebrate every little thing that you do. Um, Even those days when you don't think it's your best day, if you got out there, celebrate. And then, of course, pay it forward. I tell everybody I know about how 52 Hikes has completely changed my life. Um, and I tell people, get out there. Even if you're not going to do 52 hikes a year, get outside, do something, and do it for you every week. So lessons, every step counts. That for me continues to be a hard one. It's hard for me not to compare my mileage sometimes to other people I hike with, but it's better to get out and take a couple steps than none at all. Every single minute outside matters. And so if I can only get outside for 15 minutes, then I'm going to get outside for 15 minutes because, again, that's better than nothing at all. Goals, another hard one for me. Don't compare your goals to other people's goals. And especially when we're, in these groups where people are sharing their hikes, it's often easy to feel like, why am I not doing that? But whatever it is that you can do, that's what your goals should be. And I can tell you, I'm very honest now about what my abilities are. And so, a whole group of people went to Kilimanjaro with 52 hikes a few weeks ago, and they climbed, and that's amazing for them. But I know that that's not a reasonable goal for me ever. And so I can say, yay for you, and then look at goals that are much more suitable to me. And that's been a learning process, I will say. And finally, I'm always capable of more than I think I am. I had myself completely convinced 8 years ago that I was just a sick person that was going to be sick all the time. And that's not really the case at all. That is not what I am. I am all of the things I said in the beginning. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a teacher, and I'm somebody that hikes on a very regular basis, and I'm a sick person. That's the end of it. It doesn't define me anymore. And I think that's the most important thing, is to find ways so that whatever you're dealing with doesn't define you, and that you push yourself inside whatever those limits are that are safe for you. And finally, just a little bit more about some of the stuff that we had. I told you, there's all the hiker information stuff. You can see we have lots of great Facebook chapters. Also, there are other groups you can find depending on your part of the country. So, any questions? Anybody have any questions for me? Anything they want to ask or say? No? Okay. Well, how about we do this? Since it's a small group, I was originally going to put us into a breakout sessions, but it's such a small group. How about if we just each take a turn, introduce yourself, tell us where you're from, and why don't we talk about, since we're talking about challenges, what your biggest challenge has been so far on the trail. So I'll go first. Tiffany, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And for me this year, the biggest challenge has been getting out for more than an hour or two. And I have been super frustrated because I want to build up to be able to be backpacking by the time summer comes. And between the weather here and migraines, it's not happening. So I can tell you that's my challenge. I'm going to keep working at getting outside, but some of it I can't control. And if I have to cancel my first backpacking trip, that's what's going to happen. So who wants to go first? Anybody want to volunteer?
I'll go.
Okay.
My name's Tressa. I live close to Boise, Idaho. I think my biggest challenge has been health. I'm down right now, just finishing up RSV that I caught from my
Oh,
grandkids. So yeah,
oh no. Yeah.
but
So
I'm gonna do it. So
and that's the thing is just know that you're going to do it. And you're going to probably start slower than you thought you were, and that's okay. But yeah,
absolutely.
just get out there. Well, it's nice to meet you. Good luck to you.
You
Who's
too.
next?
Thank you.
Anybody want to volunteer?
I'll go.
Yay.
Uh,
Hi, Susan.
Hi, I'm Susan. I'm from Santa Fe. And this is actually my second year. I started this 52 challenge last year for the first time. Um, my biggest challenge is probably time. um, I'm involved in just so many different things, probably overextending myself. And but this year I've really tried to focus on making Sunday the day that I get out and hike, whether it's solo or with somebody else. Sunday's kind of my day. And right now I'm only doing like 1 to 2 mile hikes, but it doesn't matter. It's 1 to 2 miles I didn't have before. So
That's right. That's awesome. And I think so many of us struggle with that time piece. It's hard to say, okay, I'm going to give myself. But when you put it in, I'm giving this time to myself. And even if it's just a small amount of time, it matters. So good for you. Who wants to go next?
I can go next.
Okay.
I'm Jennifer. I am from Portland, Oregon. And my biggest challenge has been this last summer we were in Glacier and did a ton of hiking, and I developed plantar fasciitis, which was horrendous because it was like our first big hike that it started, and we had three, 15-mile hikes to do. So I kind of suffered through it because I didn't know what it was, when it started. And then once we got home, went and had it diagnosed and got some treatment for it. So it's getting better. I'm still having a little bit of issues if I hike over 5 or 7 miles, but it is getting better, and I'm just working through it.
Well, good for you for working through it. Injuries are so frustrating.
It's
But just
awful.
keep getting out there. That's all you can do.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear that. Heather, you want to go?
Hi, I'm Heather. I am from Russell, Minnesota. Um, this is my fourth year doing the hike challenge. It took my third year to finally be able to complete the 52 hikes because of just some of the health battles that I have. And I guess the biggest thing right now with me is I'm going through early menopause, so I'm like dealing with all the hot flashes and on top of the chronic illnesses that I have. So it will be interesting how the summer will go for me for hiking.
I recommend trying a cooling towel. It doesn't solve everything, but it helps a little bit. And congratulations on finishing your first challenge. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Good for you. Yeah, that's awesome that you stuck with it. Good. Well, good luck. I hope summer isn't too awful. Let's see. Who has not gone yet?
I can go.
All right.
I'm Cindy. I live in Toledo, Ohio, kind of close to Lake Erie. Um, yeah, I've been hiking a little bit more and more the last year or two, so um, it's been great. So yeah, I just kind of stumbled across this challenge, so I'm happy to be here. I
It's a
guess.
fun one. You actually, there's some folks out your way that I've
Oh,
hiked with before with
oh,
52 Ohio. So
well, I'll have to look that up. Yes.
yeah.
I guess my biggest, like the last few weeks, I've just had a lot of fatigue. Um, don't know why. It's very frustrating. I tried to go out on a hike, and luckily I was close to home, and I called my husband to come get me at the one end of it and take me back. So it's hard.
Yeah, well, and that's what I was gonna say. It's good that you had a plan to get out,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's just you just sit. And if you can
Yep.
get the benefit of just getting outside,
Yeah.
that's
I just-
better than nothing at
I have
all.
to appreciate, how far I've come in the last couple of years.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yeah, good for you. All right. Did I miss anybody else? I think that's everybody. Well, oh, Jody, did we hear from you?
No, not yet.
Okay, you're up.
Okay. So I'm Jody. I'm 55. I live in Texas. My biggest challenge this year is that um, I had COVID at the end of January, early February, and I probably overestimated my recovery. I did go out to one of the state parks here with a large group of 50s and 60s hikers. And actually, there were some in their 70s, and boy, I couldn't keep up. And so on the second of 3 hikes, it was downhill all the way. It was, it was cool. And then on the way back, it was uphill the whole way, no shade, full sun. And I just realized that my lungs had not recovered and I couldn't breathe. And I did have to stop for a little while. So it was a tough realization for me because I really thought that I was recovered and ready to go. But it was good that I had supportive companions, and it made me a lot more aware about just having that plan, like you said, and being prepared.
Well, I'm glad that it worked out. I hope that things are improving for you. I know it's a long road for a lot of folks to get that, completely back to where they were, but getting out there is the best thing you can probably do to get better. So good luck to you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So I think that's about it, unless anybody has anything else that they want to talk about or ask about 52 before I log off. It was nice to meet all of you this way. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I hope at least a small part of it helped you. And I definitely hope that you have good luck on your 52 hikes. And even if you don't get to 52, celebrate the ones that you do. I forgot to tell you, one of my friends that does 52 Pennsylvania, her goal is that she can get to 52 every other year. And so she gives herself 2 years to get to 52 hikes. And she celebrates it because for her, that's a huge achievement. And so whatever that goal is for you, that's a goal, and get there and reward yourself because you deserve it. So have a good one. It was nice to meet you all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.